Flanagan from Speech 1608, and I am here today to inform you of the Titanic tragedy. It is the night of April 14th, 1912. Titanic is on her fifth day of the Southampton to New York voyage. The water is as calm as a wading pond, no waves in sight. The air is frigid, and the water temperature is roughly 28 degrees. Titanic is traveling at her fullest speed, 28 knots. The moon is nowhere in sight, which made the iceberg impossible to see. It is almost midnight, and the lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reynold Lee notice an iceberg that is roughly 500 yards away. They immediately call the bridge to inform them that the iceberg is right ahead. The crew becomes frantic and starts to stop the ship and turn it to the left. The crew has made a worthwhile effort, but is just not enough. Titanic's front right side scrapes the iceberg at 11:40 p.m. and begins to take in water. 2.5 death-wrenching hours have gone by, and it is now 2:20 a.m. April 15th. Titanic has foundered. 1,500 people are in the frigid water, and 750 of them are in the lifeboats. Today, I will inform you about the Titanic tragedy and what really happened on the night of April 14th, 1912. Titanic was the grandest ship of all and was known as the unsinkable ship. It was the greatest ocean liner the world had ever seen. Titanic was a gateway for people to have a fresh start in America, and they did it in style. First class, second class, and third class all were taken care of properly, and accommodations were fair for everyone. It was thought by most that Titanic was watertight and secure, which is why most claimed she was unsinkable. Titanic consisted of 16 watertight compartments, of which only the first 4 could completely fill, and she would still stay afloat. The big question is, what really happened that night of April 14th, 1912? On that Sunday morning, Captain Smith received an iceberg warning from the Coast Guards. Smith ignored the warning and went on with his belief that the icebergs would be a rare find at that time of year. At 11:40 p.m., Smith believed that the icebergs became false, and one was spotted by the lookouts, and Titanic was headed directly for it. The crew had exactly 37 seconds to stop Titanic and get her to turn before she hit. There was just not enough time for the crew to change Titanic's path, resulting in the crash. Water began to fill the watertight compartments fast, and Captain Smith immediately closed the watertight doors. 5 compartments were filled by the time the watertight doors were sealed, which meant that Titanic would not be able to stay afloat and soon would be at the bottom of the Atlantic. People were beginning to panic. The time came to load the lifeboats. There were only 16 lifeboats, meaning that only half of the people on the ship would survive. The crew did not go for their training on how to handle the lifeboats and how to load people into them, which hurt them in the long run. The lifeboats were tested with the weight of 17 men. Most of the boats were only filled by half. 1,500 people went into the Atlantic that night, and only 13 were recovered from the water. Titanic's tragedy could have been prevented with the proper planning and communication. The 1,517 people who lost their lives on that horrific night could have survived if certain precautions had been made. The lookouts were not provided binoculars that night, which made the icebergs impossible to see. The moon was not visible, and the water was calm, which did not allow waves to crash at the bergs. 16 lifeboats were on the Titanic, and which some thought that they were unnecessary for an unsinkable ship. If the ship's builder had more concern of the safety of the passengers and less of the fact that the lifeboats would make the deck look too cluttered, then more lives could have been saved. Let us discuss what we have learned from this presentation. The Titanic was one of the grandest ships of all and was considered unsinkable. Do we have a better understanding of what really happened on the night of April 14, 1912? Titanic's tragedy could have been prevented if precautions would have been executed. I am a huge history buff when it comes to learning about the Titanic. The story is so touching to me, and I am always interested in learning new information about it. This presentation has informed me with more knowledge than I have already known about the tragedy. In my opinion, the sinking of the Titanic could have been avoided with proper measures. Do you think the sinking could have been prevented? If so, what other ways could the sinking have been avoided? Thank you for your time.